Why does the United States pay higher drug prices than other countries? Because America's the only country in the world where 340B hospitals mark up drug prices and PBM middlemen charge billions in hidden fees. Meanwhile, Americans subsidize the research and development for new cures. Other countries benefit, but don't pay their fair share. Crack down on the middlemen. End the free riding. Lower drug prices. Go to balancethescales.org to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Clough came round the other side and scored. Surprised everybody. Nigel Clough. Chapman. 100 is back. Hodge. Crosby with some space on the right. Clough. Oh, that's brilliant. World-class finishing from Nigel Clough.
Welcome to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. And joining us for this special episode is a man who scored 131 goals for Forest across two spells from 1984 to 1997, placing him second in the club's all-time goal-scoring charts. He was an integral part of the side that reached Wembley 6 times between 1989 and 1992, and in his first Forest spell, he famously played under his dad, Brian. Between his 2 stints at Forest, he played for Liverpool and Manchester City, and since hanging up his boots in 1998, he's enjoyed a successful managerial career with Burton Albion, Derby County, Sheffield United, and his current side, Mansfield Town. Welcome to the 1865 podcast, Nigel Clough.
Good morning.
Great to have you with us. I know you don't do podcasts often, so it's really good to speak to you today.
I don't do them at all. I don't really get the difference between a podcast and an interview.
So, I suppose there's not really much difference.
Probably a bit of fun in this. So,
right. Well, there is in some interviews.
So, just for fun, can you name the shirt sponsors of Forest during your time at the club?
I remember the first one was Home Ales, I think, going back very early on. Shipston's was one, and I remember the final one, Labatt's.
Yeah, very good.
Because Nigel Mansfield came and brought his racing car onto the ground, the pitch at the City Ground. So they're the 3 that stick in my mind. I'm sure Skoll as well in the early days.
Yes, yeah.
I remember that one. That might have been the first one. So they were the 4 main ones that I can recall. Might be 1 or 2 more as well.
You got any old shirts from them? Because there's some memorable shirts in that area.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll have 1 or 2. They're all packed away with England shirts and all that sort of stuff. Packed away.
So, before we get into your Forest career, we'll go back a few years and pick up on your early exposure to football. Your dad, Brian Clough, one of the most famous people in the game, having taken Derby County to the First Division Championship in '72, and also a household name as a TV pundit. What was it like growing up in that football environment? Because your dad at the time was on talk shows with Parkinson and David Frost and things like that. So.
Well, only being sort of 6, 7, 8 years old or something like that, you're not fully aware of it. You are when you look back now a little bit and you see the sort of people that went on Parkinson and Mike Yarwood. Do you remember Mike Yarwood?
Yeah.
Who used to do the impressions. He was one of the biggest shows on a Saturday night. And when he's doing your dad as an impression as well, and then kids at school are taking it off as well, that sort of makes you a little bit more aware of it. I remember him bringing the league championship trophy down to our junior school for the sort of teachers and the kids and everything to have photos with in 1972. So it sort of creeps up, but more than anything, it's your dad, you know. So it's you don't see the other bit as much as probably other people from the outside.
Yeah.
So in '75 then he became the manager of Nottingham Forest, and over the next 5 years leads the club to the biggest heights, winning the league championship, 2 league cups, the Super Cup and 2 European Cups, and of course you were a teenager during this period. So what was it like to follow that team around Europe?
Incredible. I think right from sort of 75, 76, and it all started on this upward trajectory, and I remember just going to the games at the City Ground and thinking they weren't going to lose. It was a funny feeling. You didn't, and obviously they lost the odd game, but not too many. But in that 5 years, it was absolutely remarkable to go from halfway down the old second division to European Cup winners, and I don't think anybody could believe it. And all the Forest fans that were around then still talk about it as though it was like it's one of the biggest things in their lives. They talk about having children, and they talk about the European Cups. Yeah, it is just incredible, and even more so when you look back, I think.
Yeah, because it's like a winning mentality. I think your dad won the Texaco Cup in the first year, and any competition, it was like we were in it to win it. So it's and it obviously built up, didn't it? Then got to 79, 18, back-to-back European Cups.
It's in stark contrast to these days because you have to manage it a little bit more, so you have to almost prioritise. But he didn't. In terms of everything was just as important. And when we went to Wembley, and some of those that you've referenced, Mercantile Credit, Zenith Data Systems, people never heard of them. Yeah. But we went to win in every single tournament we went into.
Because your dad mentioned, he says he didn't have any school qualifications, but they were his O levels and everything. And so
he used to throw that back at us and he'd say, make sure you do well at school, and we say, well, how did you do? And he said, well, they're my qualifications. We couldn't argue with that.
So, what was your journey like going from youth football to signing for Forest in '82 and becoming professional? Is it right that you left the club for a period to play for Headliner Town? Is that correct?
No, I never joined the club.
Oh, right.
I wasn't a youth team player with the club or anything.
Oh, right.
So when I finished, I stayed on at school and did my A levels, which he was, shall we say, strongly encouraged me to do. So I had a couple of years in the sixth form, and then I started playing. I was playing on a Sunday afternoon with my brother's team, and then I started playing for Headliner Town just for a few months, and then had a couple of games in the reserves, and everything went from there. But I didn't sign a contract until I think 4 or 5 months after I made my debut.
So obviously in your career then you were a striker, like your dad was as well, and how much of an influence did he have on you as a player growing up and learning the game?
Well, it was just the basics and the principles that he used to instill, into you. But I was, I think, a very, very different sort of player to the one that he was. And he said very early on, he was proud of all the achievements, but he was as proud of anything of his 250 goals, league goals, as a player. I think it was the quickest to reach 250 goals.
I think it's still a record, isn't it?
Still a record. So he says, you'll never score as many goals as I did. He won't win as many trophies as a manager. So.
I've seen there's a documentary of Forest around about 1990. He says something like he went if he played until he was 90, he went to score as many goals as I did. And it's just a brilliant caption of obviously a relationship between you and your dad kind of thing. But
so you don't try.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. There's no point in me trying to score 250 goals as quick as he did. So it's not conscious, but you become a sort of slightly different player. And I'd like to think that I made more goals than he did.
Yeah. Because would you say you're probably the prototype number 10 in that little?
I don't know. He never was numbers. It was because he was obsessed. He said, "You always be a number 9."
Yeah.
Said, get up there. He said, and then once again, it's principles. You go wherever you think.
Yeah.
But he was keen on staying up there in terms of getting the ball to your feet and getting fouled. He said that they used to say that's your job: get fouled, get hurt. So you're up against the centre halves when they were allowed to kick you as well. Yeah. In those days, the Adams and the Bowles and people like that, Bruce and Pallister, they were pretty intimidating.
Because he says that you was a brave player. There's a picture which you probably know about where you're just about to head the ball and your eyes are wide open. And a lot of players still now close their eyes, don't they, when they head the ball, and you were eyes were open. So I think he was proud of that picture, how brave he was as a striker.
Well, he used to talk about two things: as physical courage, which not everybody's got, but also moral courage, which was to have the ball at certain times when your team's losing, when you get a bit of stick from the crowd, you're under the cosh. He was as keen on that as he was the physical side. Having the moral courage on a football pitch was hugely important.
So your senior debut was a 2-0 win over Ipswich on Boxing Day 1984. Were there any hints over the Christmas dinner in the Clough's household that you'd be playing?
No. We never had Christmas all the time growing up. We never had Christmas dinner on Christmas Day. We always had it on Christmas Eve, because my dad always worked Christmas Day. So he'd train on Christmas Eve morning, then we would have our Christmas lunch in the afternoon, and then on Saturday morning he'd be training, or he'd be away for a game, or in the night time or whatever. So it just gave us a bit more time as a family on Christmas Day without preparing all the dinner and everything. But we did it all the way from being young. Because when he used to play as well, I think he played Christmas Day. I think he used to play Christmas Day and Boxing Day.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, when he was actually playing, which you mentioned that these days to play.
They're like
Christmas Day and Boxing Day.
Pitches like carpets now, aren't they? Back then it was like quagmire, wasn't it? Yeah.
Ankle deep in mud, and if they weren't rock hard, and of course he got injured on Boxing Day himself.
Yeah.
Which was, I don't know, he would never pick a team based on any sentimentality at all. But Ronnie Fenton was, I think, saying that it was about time for me to come in. So, and then he dropped me for the game after that.
Yeah, because he used to do that with players. That he gave you a feel for it. Then he used to, and I think it was kind of like protecting the player. I think he did it with Mark Crosley, didn't he? Played him a few games, and it's good management. That is.
I think there's very few that come in and are young, especially, and go straight in. One of the few exceptions, I think, was Roy Keane. He came in. He came pre-season from Cove Ramblers, and then he made his debut. I think the second game of the season at Anfield, and he stayed in. He was exceptional. Yeah, but there's not many. There's not many like that.
Yeah,
we all need a little bit of an adjustment time.
Yeah, definitely.
So what was it like then coming into the Forest dressing room that contained the likes of John Robertson, Ian Bowyer, Gary Birtles? Was it a bit intimidating for you as a younger player?
Definitely. Not in a way of them, making it intimidating. Just having watched them for the previous 5-6 years and seen, everything that they'd achieved and how good they were. I mean, they were heroes, really. But I think the role that they played in developing that team that then went on to do well in the late 80s, they were as important as anybody. And Paul Hart, I put him in that as well. He was around the club around that time. He hadn't been part of the European success, but he was people like Paul Hart and, let's say, John Robertson, Gary Birtles, Ian Bowyer. Ian Bowyer was probably the best captain I've ever played under. And then, Stuart took over, I think, from him. But, they were proper professionals and achieved the highest levels in the game, winning the European Cup and League Championship. So you couldn't help but be impressed by them and say intimidating, yes, in a certain way, but not in the way that not in that way of we're this and we're that or whatever. They were never like that. Just learn from them.
In the 85-86 season, you're top scorer with 15 goals, and the following season you top score again, this time with 14. Did you find it easy adjusting to senior football and playing in the first division, or was it kind of...
No. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, but when you go in and say, I've only come from non-league, really, so you have to adjust, and you have to adjust quickly. And one of the biggest things you have to do is you have to win over your teammates, and when they are of the calibre that we're talking about, that's your biggest thing. Once you can justify yourself in the team and they think you can help them get 3 points on a Saturday or 2 points, wherever it was, you're fine. But it's not that they don't suffer fools gladly. They'll give young players a chance and everything, but ultimately after a few games, if they don't think you're going to help them win a game, they're not interested who you are.
Yeah.
Whatever, you're not helping us or whatever. Next one.
Yeah, football's like cutthroat, isn't it? Like that. Yeah.
But you have to be good enough.
Yeah.
The thing, or they have to be showing enough to say, well, let's give this lad a chance for a few games, and let's see if he becomes good enough.
So, as well as being top goal scorer, you were renowned for your vision and passing ability. Not something that many forwards in the league possessed in those days. One of the best passes I've seen, and I always love going back to this game, was I think it was 88 in the FA Cup against Arsenal when he set up Brian Rice's goal. And I think he set up Paul Wilkinson's goal in that. And John Watson said it's probably the best appreciations of the play you will see this season. And I think you've turned and it's like an absolute pinpoint pass. So would you say that dropping into like that space is like you have to be like 1 second ahead of your forwards, like the defenders around you, in terms of like knowing where that ball's going before they read where you're going?
Definitely, and with the sort of players that we had, Rice was really renowned for his runs forward, but when you've got the likes of Steve Hodge and Roy Keane and people making runs past you and Neil Webb when he came in, then it does make it a lot easier and causes huge problems for the opposition. So once again, it wasn't something we went on the training ground and worked on. It just happens with I think players who sort of appreciate each other's strengths, and I think say the three that I mentioned there, running beyond the strikers, and you don't see it from midfielders these days. they were all exceptionally good at it, and Ricey made a run. But it was from a throw-in actually. It wasn't dropping; it was just from a throw-in from the right back position. And you're always sort of try and be aware of the spaces on the other side of the pitch. And even these days, even more, they crowd an area so much. You can throw a blanket over 15, 16 players these days. So you've got to be aware what's the other side, and we show clips for our lads and try and tell them as well. And I remember my dad going mad after the game because I think, like you said, John Motson was saying about all the layoff for Paul Wilkins and everything, and he said it detracted from the quality of his goal.
Yeah, it's
and
brilliant.
It was a fantastic goal. Yeah. Unbelievable strike, and Rice's finish and run as well.
Yeah.
And he was very unhappy one day when he came in. And I think he said something to the other players, he shouldn't have got the credit that he got because, it was about the team. I spoke to Rice last week actually, because he's just been promoted with Livingston. He's a coach at Livingston, so I spoke to him, say congratulations and everything. So still keep in touch with the odd one, people like him.
A few years ago, got off subjects, like I went on a stag do to Edinburgh, and we went to a match at Edinburgh City against Alloa, and Brian Rice was manager. They were 4-0 up at half time, Alloa, and one of their players got sent off, finished 5-4 to Edinburgh. Best game of football I've ever seen. You know, when you go to games like that, and it's kind of like you've got no preference of who you're just enjoying it. Brilliant game.
You've got no expectation either.
No, exactly.
You just enjoy it.
Exactly.
Love watching non-league game.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's more enjoyable. I mean, I'm season ticket for Forest and go home and away, but yeah, sometimes you go to even you can just walk through a park and there's a game on. Sometimes you can get more enjoyment after that than just watching your own team kind of thing.
Without a doubt. It's funny because one of the lads I used to, Chris Fairclough was there when I was coming through as well. He was a very, very good defender, and I wish he'd have stayed alongside Des. That could have been a brilliant partnership. Yeah. And I saw Chris a few years ago, and I said I used to hate playing against you even in training because he used to grab you, and he used to whatever, and that's where it came from, to get away from people. So you try and think, where doesn't the centre half want me to go? Yeah. It wasn't a conscious thing to drop in a hole or anything like that. It was just to get away from the centre half out. Where doesn't he want me to go?
Yeah.
And so I was telling Chris about I used to hate playing against you, and he said, I used to hate playing against you because you used to take me to places I didn't want to go. Yeah. He said, I didn't want to go 10 yards or whatever, 15 yards in the midfield and thing. So I didn't know that.
So in 1989 then, Forest beat Luton Town 3-1 in the final of the Littlewoods Cup, and in doing so won the club's first major trophy for 9 years, and you scored twice in that game. What are your memories of that day?
Just delighted winning the trophy. We were conscious of the 9 years, believe it or not, and we were conscious that we got this good team with Stuart and Des and Webby and so on, all that, and we wanted to win a trophy in our own right as well, because it's all right being a good team, but you've got to win something. I didn't realise we'd been to Wembley 6 times in that 3 or 4 years. That's incredible for different things. But you've got to win one. And we did manage to win it. So for lots of different reasons, I say the first time for 9 years for everybody, this group of players, it was a special day. Obviously, I remember going 1-0 down. I think Mick Harford scored, didn't he?
He did.
We did with a header. And then we gradually got back into the game and ended up winning.
And here's Tommy Gaynor. Chapman again made a good break for him, getting towards that 6-yard box. There's Nigel Clough again. It's another one. Well, he's been Forest's top scorer for the last 3 seasons. He's top scorer again now. He's added 2 to his 17 that he's scored already this season. He's on 19. Sliding that in wide of Seeley, just inside the far post. And Forest now leading 3-1 with some valuable breathing space.
And you retained the League Cup a year later, beating Oldham 1-0. Yeah. Is it often said that this side between 1988 and 92 is your dad's second great Forest team? How good was it a side to play?
I think it was building from the mid-80s. I think say from 89, from when the trophy, it was before then. I think we were a very good team leading up to then. And the other thing we would have liked to have been tested in, and one of the biggest travesties, is that we didn't get to play in Europe. English clubs were banned at the time, and we would have qualified, I think, for several seasons for European competition. And I know one or two lads really still miffed about that they never got in their careers to play in a European competition. Yeah. So it was a bit unlucky. We finished third when we were in the Premier League. We were top 6 and stuff, and going to Wembley and winning trophies. But it was building from the, I think, mid sort of 80s with that team. And you know, Stuart came in and Des came through, and then additions like Webby and so on. Odgie came back. Some very, very good players around that time.
Around that time, it was a 3-3 draw at Upton Park, and I love watching this free kick. I think he was about 35 yards out, and he put it in the top. I can't remember who the goalkeeper was for West Ham, but it's an unbelievable.
Might be Les Seeley, I don't know.
Yeah, is that one? Would you say that's one of your best goals in a Forest shirt?
Yeah. I remember because me and Stuart used to stand over them.
Yeah,
and we it wasn't one of those I'm taking it, no I'm not, or whatever. We say, what do you think? Do you fancy it, or whatever? And he'd say it off the time. I'd say it's a left footer today. It's a left footer. You have it, and he'd say to me, he said that'll go around the wall with a right footer, and that's how we used to decide on it.
Yeah, so right in the postage stamp. I watched the goal again yesterday, and it's like the wall doesn't jump. Even if it did jump, they weren't going to get anything on it, and it's like, and the goalkeepers looked at him thinking, I'm not getting anywhere near that. But this,
I think if it went in these days, it would receive a little bit more attention.
Yeah, definitely.
Kicking like that,
yeah, definitely.
Pierce or Clough? It's going to be Clough curling it. And a magnificent goal by Nigel Clough. A superb free kick. Aimed to perfection and curling over that wall. And just inside the post. Astonishing free kick goal by Nigel Clough.
In 91, your Forest team, which is the FA Cup final. Before that, though, there's a memorable cup run, including about 6 or 7 replays against Crystal Palace, and obviously Southampton and Newcastle. You score a late equaliser in the first tie, and Newcastle would keep Forest in the cup. Then in the replay, you score a really good goal, and I'm going to ask you now, can you remember it?
Yeah. It ricocheted quite nicely, actually, off somebody. But
yeah, it looks like you do like a step over or something like that. You just get that half a yard into a really, really good finish.
Trenton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember that, No, I think the lad got half a toe on it or something, and it just sort of dropped nicely. Yeah. I remember curling it in on the right-hand side. But the equaliser was the most important one. That kept us in the competition. Yeah. The one at St James's Park.
Yeah. Was that in the 90th minute, that one?
It was
late on.
Yeah. Terry Wilson made it. And I'd been ill, I remember. I'd had flu or something like that and felt really rough, and hadn't trained for, I think, best part of a week, and I think we'd had it postponed as well. We'd been up and back or whatever because of the weather. I think we'd been up at least once and it'd been called off, so it came back down, and I remember feeling rough with everything, but it was one of those where I think these days they'd say, you're a bit under the weather, don't play or play an hour or something like that. But that didn't happen in those days. You stayed out there.
Chettle. Up to Keane in the centre circle. Nice play between Keane and Wilson. Wilson plays it through. This is Clough, and he scores! The Sun has kept that in the cup. Defenders looking for the offside flag. It didn't come. Nice play between Keane and Wilson in the centre circle. Wilson, who played the ball through. Clough continued on the run and found the corner, and it's 2-2.
My day kicks off with a refreshing Celsius energy drink, then straight to the gym. Pre-K pickup, back home to meal prep. Time for my fire station shift. One more Celsius, gotta keep the lights on. When the 3-alarm hits, I'm ready. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
In 91, Forest played Spurs in the final at Wembley, and we all know what happens on that day. The matches looked by Forest fans as a sliding door moment. If Paul Gascoigne is sent off and Roger Milford sends him off, would you say things would have ended differently in terms of, might have saved Gaz's career, but he didn't know that at the time. But if we won the FA Cup, do you think your dad would have retired and probably things would have turned out differently in those final 2 seasons?
No idea. I think we would have certainly had a better chance to win the game playing against 10 men, without a doubt. It's quite ironic because the FA Cup this year has just been decided by a referee in error.
Yeah.
No VAR in those days, but these days they've looked at it and still made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And it's cost Manchester City a chance at the FA Cup. Goalkeeper should have been sent off. Everybody's absolutely adamant
definitely.
about it. And that's in the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Now, but I think looking back, Roger was probably more interested in the occasion than anything else. And he didn't do his job on the day in terms of the first tackle is a red card.
Yeah, definitely.
All day long in any era of football.
Yeah.
You know, these days you raise your foot and whatever, they look at it and go, right, you're off. In any era of football, the first tackle is a red card. And I believe I'm right. Even after the second one, he didn't even get booked.
No, he didn't. He was having a joke with him while he's on the stretch. He's like unbelievable.
Patting him on the shoulder, you know, bad luck or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
2 tackles like that, not even to receive a yellow card, never mind a red.
Yeah. Even looking back on it now, it's just horrendous, isn't it? So.
Yeah, and we didn't play brilliant, but we did enough to get a replay.
Yeah.
And it's just so unfortunate for Des with the own goal, but we did enough to get a replay.
Yeah. So let's move on to the 92-93 season, the first Premier League campaign. After we beat Liverpool in our opening game, we'll lose our next 6 and end up in a relegation scrap. What would you say happened that season? Was it a matter of Teddy Sheringham going and not being replaced, or there was other factors?
Lots of different things. Like Stuart was injured that season, we missed him. I think Des had gone, a year before, something like that.
Yeah, I think the summer of 92 to Sampdoria.
Teddy certainly leaving, wanted to go back down south to Spurs, and the players coming in probably weren't quite as good as them, and then you get on these losing sort of runs, and it's very, very difficult. I always thought we'd get out of it all the way, and every time we seemed to just get a result somewhere or a goal somewhere, then we got knocked back the week after or something like that and just couldn't quite manage it. Happens in football sometimes.
Yeah, so during the course of the season, this is quite a sensitive subject, news reports circulating about some corruption in football. Allegations were made towards your father, particularly from club director Chris Wotton. What was your feelings of that season? Because obviously you had like your professional pride, and also potentially you had to defend and protect your father. Was it?
Yeah, I didn't have to really defend or protect him. That was, and I think Forest fans will do that forever against anybody. And rightly so for the memories that they've got over 18 years. So one guy coming out and saying some stuff is always, when it's from a director inside the club, I can't remember too much about it, but I remember it being an unbelievably difficult time with different things. Yeah. But naturally you're going to try and defend your dad first of all, and I think everybody did at the time. So
it's just sad how it ended.
Of course, and it bothered him right to the end. Yeah, right to the end that we got relegated. We didn't deserve to get relegated. In terms of we should have been better than that. Yeah. Irrespective of what was going on, us as players should have been better than that. We had enough to stay in the league.
So in 19...
I think we let him down, not the other way around.
Yeah. And obviously the relegation in 1993, as you mentioned, and your dad then retired from football, and you move on to Liverpool. So how did that move kind of come about, and how do you look back on your time at Anfield? Because despite obviously the rivalry that exists, it is an amazing club. And
it's one of those where you get the opportunity to go, and you can't look back then, I think, in 10, 20 years and say I had the chance to go to Liverpool and turned it down. And the relegation wasn't really anything to do with that. It's never been a big thing. But there's a new manager coming in, knew everything was going to change. And I didn't think Forest were that keen on keeping me. So I know they've got Stuart sorted out straight away with a new deal and everything, got him. And I didn't think there was a particular... I think it probably suited everybody to sort of for me to move on. Especially with the surname and everything that had happened in the season before. So when Liverpool came along, it just seemed an unbelievably good opportunity to go and see what they'd done for the last 10 years and how they'd done it, because they were the standard bearers for so long. And Graham Souness was the manager at the time. Unbelievable amount of respect for him, both as a player and as a manager. He was the one. He's the one that's come out as much as anybody, and said how incredible Forest's rise was. And they know that without Forest, they would have just dominated for absolutely the whole decade, and then all of a sudden Forest come along, sort of late 70s or whatever, and give the Liverpool the game, the only team, and from nowhere. from absolutely nowhere, and I think that's what surprised everybody, and that's what Graham always says. These came from off. It's not a Man U or a Leeds or somebody, a big club challenging. All of a sudden, this team have come from bottom half of the second division within a few years, and Liverpool are going, hold on a minute.
So it's not a team you'd expect. It's kind of just come out of nowhere.
And I think that was one of the most remarkable things about it.
It's what makes the story, I think, of being a Forest fan all the more special.
Incredible. What was it, 5 or 6 players who were playing in the bottom of the second division went on to win European Cups?
It's
you can try and put that into perspective now. You've got a team in the bottom half of the Championship, and then within a few years they're actually winning the Champions League. Impossible.
It's never going to happen again, is it?
It won't happen.
It's impossible.
And obviously in 96, early 96, should I say, you moved to Manchester City and are at the club as they are relegated from the Premier League that summer. Playing 23 games in Division 1, the following season you rejoined Forest on loan after Stuart Pearce took over as the caretaker manager. What was it like returning to the City ground at that time for you?
Special. Always special, and I just came back really try and help Stuart in any way as soon as he got the job on a caretaker basis, was it?
Yeah.
He called and said, do you fancy coming back to play, help, whatever? And obviously I jumped at the chance. Very, very difficult time at Man City. It was because Frank Clark left, didn't he? And we went to City. So it was sort of a sort of swap, and then everything wasn't too bad. And I think then Dave Bassett came in, did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So everything was a bit around then once he came in. So I was tried and come back several times. Actually, I was hoping that when Stan Collymore went from Forest to Liverpool, there might have been a chance of a swap or something to come back, but it never happened. And then obviously after that, it would have been nice to make something permanent, but it never happened again.
So when you came back, do you remember the only goal you scored and your final strike for the club?
Leicester?
Yeah.
I do, yeah. I got smashed in the nose. I'd been smashed in the nose on the Saturday against Man U. I remember making a chance early on for, I think, Kevin Campbell in that game, sadly. And then we went to Leicester. I'm not sure if we lost that game over Man U. I think we did. But I remember Gary Pallister an elbow from him and my nose going all over. I was really struggling breathing, and scored at Leicester, and in scoring we got another whack on it as well. And
double whammy.
Yeah, and it was like one of those cartoon noses. But I do remember the goal. I can't remember who cleared it. It might be Colin Cooper or somebody cleared it and just sort of stayed on side and smashed it. I do remember it at Filbert Street.
So you made a brief return to the Premier League with Sheffield Wednesday in '97, but at the end of that season, Man City are then relegated to Division 2. You leave the club on a free transfer. Then injury brought an end to your top-level career. Do you have any regrets of how it ended, or?
No, I think it's what it is. I tried to stay in, but I managed to. I think it was a family thing as well, where my son had just been born, so he was sort of 5 months old. Didn't really want to go too far, and then a job became available down the road at Burton, 20 minutes down the road. Yeah. So I thought, well, let's see if I can just play non-league, which I could, without training every day, and starting the managerial thing. So it was almost just by accident, almost.
Yeah. I can't believe how many games you actually played for Burton. Is it over 200 or something 300? Wow.
Yeah. Well, when we went in, me and Gary Crosby, it was Gary who was going to play because he was fit, obviously, and then within a month his ankle went really badly. Yeah. So he said, I can't play anymore. So he said, you're going to have to play. I went, I can't play. I'm knackered. I'm more knackered than you are. Yeah. And he says, you're going to have to play. And then I think about 3 months later or something, I started playing and then stayed in, and then played until I was, I think, 42 in the reserves. Yeah. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. So getting on to kind of the national team. So in '89 you receive your first international call for England, and you make your debut under Bobby Robson in a goalless draw with Chile. How did it feel to be called up for your country? Did your dad give you any advice on that?
Well, I've been under 21s. I played a lot of games with under 21s and been around it, because the 21s used to sort of shadow the first team in terms of they play in the same place. So we play on the Tuesday and they play on the Wednesday, that sort of thing. So you've got much senior team and you all travel together and everything. So it was a little bit more integrated then. But no, international football is tough. It's very hard because you're travelling a lot and you're sitting in hotels a lot, and when you're very, very happy at your club, what I found most difficult was playing on a Saturday, having somebody kick you and you trying to kick somebody in return, and the competitive element, and then a day later sitting down with them at dinner and playing in the same team. I found that very difficult to to come to terms with.
And that was still happening, like in the 90s, where obviously the massive rivalry between Man U and Liverpool, where 1 minute you like what you just said, then next minute they're like there's a divide in the meeting room at England, because obviously they're from Liverpool. You got obviously the likes of Gary Neville and players like that. So
Graham Taylor was fantastic at bridging that as much as possible and bringing everybody together. We used to do a lot of things socially and everything. Very good, but ultimately it's there, and it'll always be there. They're a bit closer now, I think, and you see that after games now a little bit. I think friends off the pitch from different clubs than they used to be. But I found that really difficult.
You see it in the tunnel, don't you? The kissing and things like that. Yeah. Whereas back in the day, like Roy Keane, who we've mentioned on this pod, is like his head down, that's it, I'm focused for battle kind of thing.
You would do it, that's it. You're looking at centre half in the tunnel or whatever, and they're looking at you, and he's thinking, I'm going to kick you, and I'm thinking, I'm going to try and... You know what I mean? And that's what it was. And so to try and then change that or whatever within 24, 48 hours, it's difficult.
Yeah. And so obviously, in terms of England there, you build up to the 1990 World Cup in Italy. Were you in contention for a place in the squad at the finals?
No idea. I think I got if I remember right, I got not a call, a message from Bobby Robson. I might have been at a dinner or something, and he said, what's your holiday plans in the summer? And he said, I want you to go to the under-21 tournament in Toulon again. I've been the year before, and I don't know, I hope for 1 minute he might have said to the seniors, but so I went with the under-21s as I think I still wasn't eligible, and played in the Toulon tournament. So I don't think it was that close now.
Yeah, because Steve Ball got picked, didn't he? Was he in third division at Wolves at the time?
Yes, yeah, I remember playing in Scotland away and Steve being in the squad,
yeah.
So in 91 then, you had a few B team appearances, and then you returned to the senior England squad, coming off the bench against Argentina in a summer friendly tournament. So Graham Taylor was the manager at the time. What was he like to play for?
Oh, very, very, very decent man. And he tried, I think, to get all the best about English football and take it into the international stage. I think he recognised that, what our real strength is of English football. And I think Gareth Southgate did that a lot as well. We're not as good in lots of ways that they are, that the Spaniards are, and technically and everything. I don't think because the way they play their leagues, they have more time on the ball and everything. Technically, they develop better players, but we have this spirit, and he wanted to, I think, capture all that at international level. And he thought that was our best way. And as I say, I think Gareth Southgate tried a lot of that as well, to harness that spirit, that English sort of spirit. So Graham was very, very good to work for. John Barnes always said he was the best club manager ever worked for, and obviously had him a long time at Watford. And he had a tough time with England. But things go it's like the Koeman, should have been sent off or whatever, and it wasn't. You talk about these decisions, whether Roger Milford, whatever, the FA Cup this year or something. Things are out of your hands, and when you get decisions go against you, there's nothing you can do about it.
Even though about the fights, like mentioned, refereeing decisions with the corrupt referee during the Anderlecht game, it's kind of like you said, things are out of your control, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Dad said he reached 4 European semi-finals. He said 2 of them were corrupt referees, and the other 2 the one.
Yeah, exactly. But it didn't. Was it against Juventus when he says, "I'm not talking to cheating bastards" or something?
Italian bastards.
Yeah.
The press afterwards.
Yeah.
He saw them going into the referee's dressing room at half time, and and then I think 10 years later it all comes out. And Brian Glanville, the journalist who just sadly died, he was the one who I think did a lot of exposing of it all, because he was very close with Italian football.
Yeah.
There's corruption, at the highest level in football in the European Cup.
So wrong, though, isn't it? Yeah. It really is wrong.
Juventus were buying referees.
Yeah.
And then Anderlecht again. Gary Ruddles is still absolutely fuming about it.
Yeah.
Forrest should have been in another European.
It went. It got bogged down in the legal system in Belgium, didn't it? It got nowhere. But like it says, with the likes of Gary Bertels, I mean, he got 2 European Cup medals, but when if you've lost the game, you think fair enough, it wasn't good enough. But when you get cheated, that's the
feeling.
Yeah,
that goes away.
It's been unfairly taken away from you. It's completely out of your hands.
That's the feeling. And whether it's a decision, that's not cheating, but it's just a poor decision or whatever. You just feel hard done by.
Yeah, and I've seen that penalty decision is nowhere near a penalty. And the same thing, I know there wasn't any repercussions from it. I think when we played Dynamo Berlin in 1980, John Robertson gave away a penalty, and it's like, you looked at it, and even on the interview, he says, I'm adamant, I never ever touched him. So it's things like that where you go abroad and you're thinking people are out there to get like a quick decision.
I know Kenny Burns gave one away in Athens, I think, as well, and didn't think that was. He seemed to play the ball, but so it is.
Well, kind of coming back to England then, you go to Euro 92 as a member of the squad but failed to get on the pitch in Sweden. So with Taylor favouring the likes of Alan Shearer, Smith and Merson to partner Gary Lineker, looking back on that tournament, do you think you could have made an impact?
Well, not by company, that. Hold on, you say Lineker and Merson, Smith and Shearer?
Yeah.
Well, to be up there and competing for a place with them isn't too bad, and they were probably better. So I got no problems. The experience was brilliant. It would have been nice to go a little bit further in the tournament, but there were 4 very, very good strikers there. And I remember Ian Wright being left out of the squad as well. So there's a few decent ones.
Yeah. And at the time you also had Les Ferdinand, who was just coming through at QPR, so there's a lot of good players.
Around at that time.
But
in the forward area more than anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just unfortunate that Italian United who just couldn't get over the line with the squad we had on penalties, and obviously 92, which obviously we didn't do justice to ourselves. So. Later in 93, England's World Cup qualification begins to unravel. You feature in an Impossible Job documentary that follows the team and Graham Taylor throughout that campaign. Have you ever watched it?
No.
I think going back to that Holland game, it's like Graham Taylor absolutely adamant. Again, it goes back to a bad decision from the referee where Koeman should have got sent off, and it's a penalty all day long, isn't it? And only to get a free kick and no sending off.
Yeah.
And then,
imagine how different it could have been for Graham, for England and everything, if that decision had been correct. I think he was incredibly badly advised to do a documentary.
Yeah. I think you do it in you go into it and thinking, it'd be good kind of thing, but in hindsight you look back and think, no, it's probably a bit of a wrong move. But
I don't know one football documentary that's come out that reflects well on the people in it.
Yeah. I've seen, I love things like behind the scenes and things like that, but some of them you're like thinking that this is ill-advised. Like you said, they never come out well, do they? In the end,
I can't think of why. I don't watch them.
Yeah.
But all the stuff that I do hear about them is people saying, "Oh, did you see that?" or whatever. What about what they did there? And it's always the sort of ridicule side almost, rather than that. I tell you what, weren't they fantastic in that documentary? They're not really interesting.
I find them a bit cringy as well, the modern ones, because it's like you can see that they know the camera's in the corner of the room, and they're giving it.
It will never ever be truly 100% honest. The only problem with the stuff I've seen over the years of Neil Warnock in the dressing room.
Brilliant.
I think
it's like Emmerdale after the watershed, isn't it?
I think that's pretty pure. Whatever. And I don't think Neil will be any different to the cameras out there. But all the others, without doubt, will never be a true reflection. Never. It's impossible.
After England failure to qualify for USA 94, Graham Taylor resigns and replaced by Terry Venables. Were you ever in line for a call-up under him?
I don't think so, no. I can't remember. I think I was in and out of Liverpool, so I can't remember. Obviously, when there's a change of manager, it affects things, He's going to bring fresh players in.
Definitely.
Shearer certainly established himself, I think, by then, as the main striker.
And also you had Robbie Fowler, who probably didn't... and when he was at Liverpool. So. Yeah. And also, what is your favourite memory of playing for England? Is it just a matter of putting on the jersey and representing your country?
I think we beat France 2-0 at Wembley. And I had a hand in one goal.
Was that Shearer's debut in 92?
We beat France, a good France team, 2-0. And I think we played well that night, so I think that's probably the highlight.
So finally, quick fire 9 questions, because obviously number 9. Favourite goal for Forest?
The penalty in the League Cup final against Luton.
Favourite ground?
White Hart Lane.
White Hart Lane.
Sorry, presumably not the City ground. So.
Well, you can take that question.
White Hart Lane.
Yeah, you had a good record there, didn't you?
Fantastic.
So, best player you've ever played with?
John Barnes.
Favourite holiday destination?
Anywhere away from football.
Favourite food?
Question. I eat most things, as you can see. I don't know if I've got a favourite food. My wife's homemade lasagna.
Good choice. Favourite band?
Too many, and it changes. too many. I could name 5 or something like that, but I'd be to split between Billy Joel and Bruce Springsteen, Elton John and the Beatles and John Lennon and people like that. And
seen any of them live?
Yes, Bruce and Billy, and obviously a bit too young for the Beatles. But,
yeah. Well, even I'm 37, I've been to see Bruce Springsteen at Wembley twice, so yeah, unbelievable.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, for somebody in his 70s and 3 hours on stage, it's unbelievable at that age. I don't think I'd be. I can't stand up on one spot for 2 hours, never mind 3.
But that's the difference. These people are professionals and they keep performing, the Elton Johns or whatever. They don't need to, but that's their job. Yeah. They see it as a job, and it's our job. We are musical artists and we keep performing.
So, favourite car you've ever owned?
Oh, that's another one. You won't know this one. A GMC Typhoon.
Ooh. Is that American?
Yes.
Yeah. Favourite other sport?
Baseball.
And if you could go back to Boxing Day in 1984 and relive your career all over again, would you? You can change any aspect of it, but would you relive it?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish it went on longer, and I wish I realised how quickly it would go and how special it was at the time.
Yeah. So, you don't realise how quick things... I mean, I was just saying before we did this, I never went any higher than Sunday League, but in your 20, you think you've got plenty of time. As soon as 30 comes, you're thinking... yeah, exactly.
Say to our lads, enjoy every single minute, get every minute out of it, because before you know it, the turnaround is over.
So, Nigel Clough, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. When it comes to meeting the world's energy needs, more is better. What we mean is our world needs a wide range of energy sources to meet our increasing needs. Just wind or solar won't get us there, as the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. With our growing population and the increasing use of energy-demanding technologies like AI, reliability is key, and the reliability of natural gas is unmatched by wind and solar. That doesn't mean we all can't work together, but natural gas is vital to ensuring we meet our energy needs. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.